Some may argue the media died long before this, but if you want to call it the final nail in the coffin, that is fine by me. That's what I would dub it 1 year ago today. So it was 1 year ago yesterday that President Trump, of course, nearly lost his life as then candidate Trump. And we saw a lot of coverage over the weekend about that, at least in certain areas and on certain platforms. A lot of people don't want to talk about it anymore because that might make him look like a human being, might make him look like a regular guy. But, for most Americans who want to follow this stuff, yesterday was obviously a historic anniversary. But it was also the anniversary of the day the media, broadly speaking, destroyed itself. I want to remind you on some of the headlines that we woke up to 1 year ago today. We had this from the Washington Post. Trump escorted away after loud noises at Pennsylvania rally. MSNBC, Secret Service, Trump saved after being rushed off of Pennsylvania stage after gunshot-like sounds. NBC News headline here. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at his Pennsylvania rally. Can't make this stuff up.
How dare you?
CNN. Trump injured in incident at Pennsylvania rally.
Fake news.
USA Today. David Jackson. This might be my favorite. I say that very much tongue-in-cheek. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startled former president and crowd.
He's a nut job.
Steve Carell. Loud noises!
Yes. That still is an all-timer right there. David Jackson, USA Today. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president and crowd. That's like Kennedy visit to Dallas cut short.
Right.
I mean,
Touché.
Come on, guys. Like, I understand that especially in the moments after, it wasn't totally clear what exactly had just happened. But you got to understand, it's very much like the story we talked about 1 hour ago regarding Heather Hall, the former Kansas City, Missouri councilwoman who was just selected to be on the Board of Police Commissioners in Kansas City, and she'll be here at 8:20. I just posted a long thread about this on X at Pete Mundo. But the media is very careful in how it uses its headlines to further a certain narrative. And the immediate narrative that the media was trying to pursue here was one of, do not feel sympathetic towards Donald Trump. Do not give this guy any benefit of the doubt. Do not humanize him. Do not, and especially for a media that's happy to jump to conclusions on a lot of things. Suddenly, not only did they not jump to conclusions, which is good to do when someone almost loses their life like this, but they were so slow to note the obvious that they carefully pick and choose their words in a way that makes sure you have more questions than answers, and you also don't have any sympathy towards this figure who everybody in the world watched just nearly lose his life. That's the purpose. That's the reason that they go down the road they choose to go down with these ridiculous and absurd headlines from places like the Associated Press, Washington Post, USA Today, CNN. The AP had this one as well. Donald Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service during a rally after loud noises ring out in the crowd. I mean, I understand moments after there still is some uncertainty here, but you've got to be kidding me with that. That's as bad as it gets. But to me, that was also the day that anybody who was still like trying to give some of these more mainstream outlets the benefit of the doubt, that was the day that it should have ended for a lot of people. How that was covered after the fact. 913-408-7957 is our studio line and our text line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. The president also, put out a statement on this last night. And what I really appreciated about his statement 1 year after he nearly lost his life is that more of the statement was about the country and what the country's been through, and also about Corey Comparator, the firefighter and the veteran, the husband and the father who lost his life that day, who also lost his life protecting his wife and his two daughters who were behind the stage with him at the rally. And that's a name that the president, anytime he talks about this, he oftentimes will reference Corey. And let's be honest, most Americans are not going to remember in 5, 10, 15, 20 years Corey Comparator. They're just not going to remember his name. It's sad, but it's a reality of the situation. It's just, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. His name is not going to be remembered by most Americans. They'll remember it as the day that Donald Trump almost was assassinated, but they're not going to remember his name. It's human nature. For right or for wrong, it's human nature. But almost every time you hear Trump talk about it, he talks about Corey. He brings up his name. He brings up his wife. He brings up his daughters. And for a guy that media spent about 10 years trying to basically cover in a way that does not humanize him at all, he's largely cut through it in ways like this, in talking about Corey, despite the fact that all people want to talk about is him and his reaction. And, the president is saying, I got to get my shoes on, got to get my shoes on. One of the all-time great Trump lines, right? The guy just gets shot in the ear, comes within a quarter inch of his life of losing it. He's down on the ground, Secret Service on top of him, and before he stands up, he says, I want to put my shoes on. And then he gets up there and he screams, fight, fight, fight. I think we'd all like to believe we'd react that way in that moment, but let's be honest, 99.9% of us would not, myself included. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to BS you and say I would have done that in real time. I wouldn't have. I would have lied there and I said, guys, tell me where I got to go and get me out of here. Not this guy. And nobody prepares for that moment in their lives, right? You just don't do it. And even if you maybe think about it in the back of your mind, you never really know in that fight or flight moment how your body and your brain are going to react to something like that. You can't prepare for it. Unless you're someone who's served in an active war zone, you have no idea what your body's going to do, how your brain's going to react, and how they're going to work together in that moment. And the way they work together for President Trump and the reaction that he had is also what made that an all-time moment in American history. It wasn't just the moment itself, it was the reaction to it. From his end and also from the media's end, where they outwardly and utterly embarrassed themselves in what was the final nail in their credibility coffin.